Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murphy. What the hell is going on?
Love it.
Kyler Murray both showed up for minicamp. Which contract situation would concern you more if you were a Ravens or Cardinals fan?
Cardinals, because I don't know if I want to sign him long term to whatever money he's going to make. Ravens, I don't think Lamar's. I don't feel like there's any animosity between him and the organization. Kyler was doing all the social media whinging and removal of the team name and all that other stuff earlier, and he's good over the first half of the season, and then he gets hurt, and he and Cliff Kingsbury lose every football game of the second half of the season. Lamar Jackson feels differently than that.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar has won an MVP.
Yeah, and I mean, last year's they had 10 ACLs in that team and COVID and everything else.
Good stat from our always fantastic research department that made for HQ, but we can use it on the podcast because, synergy and whatnot. Kyler Murray last year, including the playoffs with and without DeAndre Hopkins, 8-2 with 72% completion percentage, 278 passing yards per game, 19 touchdowns, 9 picks, 106 passer rating. Without DeAndre Hopkins, 1-4, 63% completion percentage, almost a full 9% drop, 228 passing yards per game. That's 50 yards less, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks, and an 81.2 passer rating. That's certainly concerning. I mean, like the Cardinals know this, you know what I mean? Like the Cardinals, if we are aware of this, the Cardinals are also aware of this. And the Cardinals are also aware that DeAndre Hopkins won't be playing for the first 6 games of the season. So
when the Cardinals typically win football games.
Yeah. So, I mean, like that's, and now, like, I don't know. I mean, I think Hopkins missed the games he missed were in the middle of the season or the latter part of the season, right?
I don't remember.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, do we think that is it so like this the late season melts? Yeah, he missed he started week 9, 10, 11, came back for 12 and 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So they went 1-3 down the stretch without Hopkins out there, losing to, remember they lost to the Lions, the Colts. They beat the Cowboys inexplicably in Dallas, and then lost at home in the final week of the season to Seattle with a chance to clinch the division. So I guess the way I was trying to frame it is, what do we think that the late season melt last year was about Hopkins not being on the field, or is it about Kingsbury and Kyler? Is it sort of all of the above? Maybe they couldn't game plan as well without Hopkins.
Well, I think it's all of the above, but I think Hopkins is probably worth 15 to 20% of that, maybe less.
Okay.
You still like Christian Kirk, who made $40 billion in the offseason going to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
You had Rondale Moore, you had AJ Green, you didn't have Hollywood Brown, who they traded for during draft weekend. And as we sit here, I don't think this wide receiver group it's about the same. I think if you replace Christian Kirk with Hollywood Brown, that feels like probably an even swap, but you're going to be without Hopkins for the first 6 games. And look, we'll find out.
I think I would take Hollywood Brown, knowing that he has a previously established rapport with Kyler Murray because they played in college together, over Christian Kirk. For me, that's an easy call, but
no, I don't know if it's easy. It wasn't like Hollywood Brown was setting the world on fire in Baltimore, where they don't have any receivers.
Fair.
Christian Kirk actually has a body of work now. It didn't necessitate the contract he got, but that ain't his fault. That's the Jaguars who paid him. But I was going to say, we'll find out how much Trey Hopkins is worth to this team over the first 6 games, because typically, like I said, that's when they win all these football games. And if they don't have him and they go 2-4, then maybe it's a bigger issue.
Well, and that's sort of the problem. And like, that's the other thing too. When you look at Lamar versus Kyler, the Ravens are trying to call Lamar and get a contract done, and Lamar's like just not talking to them. You heard the owner, Steve Biscotti, came out and said Eric DeCosta can only call Lamar so many times.
Well, that's why your agent shouldn't be 26 years old and be you. Like, you need your agent to handle those things. So if you're on vacation, you're not answering the phone to do that stuff. If you're doing whatever you're doing, driving around town, you're not answering the phone.
I mean, if I'm Lamar Jackson and the Ravens keep calling me, I'm like, actually, if I don't have an agent, I'm probably like, that's a lot of pages of reading.
Eric? Or even the phone call. Like, what are you going to talk about? And I don't think any of the quarterbacks are in line to get paid anytime soon. I think everyone's paid that's going to get paid. So maybe he's just waiting to let the dust settle, and then try to talk himself into Aaron Rodgers' $50 million range. I don't think
Well,
that.
There's also like been some rumbling that Lamar wants to be the guy who changes the way, think like, I don't know how you would change it now that like with Watson getting paid with the fully guaranteed deal, but I mean, Lamar, let's see, what's Lamar got? It's his 5th year option coming up this season, right?
Yeah. He's making 9.4.
Because he was half of what Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield are making. Amazing. His 5th year option's coming up. And then they have, with the quarterback, you can go 3 franchise tags, but it gets pretty expensive. I mean, do you think there's a chance he would just play out these single year deals? To me, that's crazy for a guy who runs as much as he does and who, had missed, several games with injury last year. Like, I would want to be getting a huge guaranteed amount if I
wait a second. Let me make sure I get this right on Lamar. I don't think he's not making 9.4 this year. Is he making 23? Is that right? That doesn't feel right. Base salary.
Oh, right? You know what it is? No, that's right. Yeah. You were probably so. Remember, under the new CBA and the 2000, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. His first contract was for 4 years, $9.4 million. That's what I saw.
Yeah,
and then, okay, go ahead.
But his 5th year option is bigger than Baker and Sam Darnold's because under the new CBA, the 2018 guys were grandfathered in, even though the CBA happened after they were drafted. The 5th year option, I'm 90% sure this is correct, what I'm saying. The 5th year option can be altered in terms of value based on if you make Pro Bowls, All Pros, MVPs, etc.
So let me ask you, I know you don't like to use this as the definitive final say, but just for to start the conversation. So Aaron Rodgers makes 50. He's the highest paid annual average value. Spot Track has a market value tab, and they put Lamar at $44 million, which is more than Josh Allen and Dak Prescott, and just behind Patrick Mahomes. How do you feel about $44 million? That would rank 3rd behind Deshaun, aforementioned Aaron Rodgers, and the aforementioned Mahomes, just ahead of Josh Allen.
Yes. Okay. I am correct, by the way.
Good job.
I think it's set up. It's like there's 4 different. If you have multiple Pro Bowls, you get 25 million. If you have 1 Pro Bowl, which Lamar has 2, so he should be at 25. Maybe that's not right. Whatever the case, he has had on-field success and is making more money versus Baker or Sam Darnold, who is not getting as much. Yes, I think if you're Lamar Jackson, you're expecting to be the absolute floor. Scroll back up, please, if you will. The absolute floor is 45. I mean, like $45 million. I mean, you have an MVP. You've had tons of success on the field. Like, I'm not taking less than what Deshaun Watson got if I'm Lamar Jackson.
Well, that's on the Browns for being stupid. But I think Patrick Mahomes' argument is he's been to 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah. I mean, like, but I'm expecting more than I guess you could talk me, if I don't have an agent, you could talk me to taking under Aaron Rodgers money, but I'm expecting around 50 million per year if I'm Lamar Jackson.
Well, you're not getting that.
Okay. Then you play out the 3.
And here's the other thing. I don't know if he's talked about this publicly, but once I saw that 23 million number, I was like, you know what? Maybe he's spending the summer building a $10 million house because he now has that money. Because previous to that, he never made more than 1.7 in a year.
Yeah. And so, yeah, but just the difference with Kyler and Lamar is that Cardinals fans and the Cardinals and a lot of people out there wonder, should we pay Kyler? There's some question as to whether they should pay Kyler. And like, are you going to give Kyler $45 million?
I am not, no.
There's no way in hell Kyler is taking less than $40 million.
No, he's probably not. I mean, and look, the Cardinals might pay him 45 or what number you put out there.
Whereas with Lamar, the Ravens are trying to give him like $45 million, and he's just not like interested in talking about it. So it's just 2 wildly different situations. I would be a little more concerned with Kyler because because I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody can definitively know if he's like the guy, even though he's
Is he better than Derek Carr, your new favorite person on planet Earth?
I like the youth and the upside of Kyler more than Derek Carr.
Well, Derek makes $40.5 million. So
I mean, there's no way Kyler is taking.
No, I was going to give him, if you thought they were similar, I would give him a 10% markup on that. So that's $44 million. Is that what you said?
I mean,
would you do $44 million if you're Kyler?
I think he should.
You better run and take that money. That's right.
If you're getting more than Josh Allen makes in an average year, you should take that in a heartbeat.
I would take Derek Carr for the next 5 years over Kyler Murray. Like I wouldn't even hesitate.
Wow.
Derek Carr's good.
I mean, look, the stuff, the leadership stuff with Kyler is, to me, that's a legitimate concern.
Not even. I'm just talking about the on-field, the injury history, all the other stuff. What about Dak Prescott?
I want Dak over Kyler for sure.
Okay, well, he's at $40 million again. 10% markup, 44. That feels like too much. I know the answer to Matthew Stafford. I'm just going down the list of guys. $35 million is Russ Wilson because he signed his deal a few years ago. I don't think anyone's, even for the next 5 years, anyone taking Kyler over Russ? No, I don't think so. And then Kirk Cousins.
In fact, emphatically no. Although Russell didn't play great last year. I mean, like, you know what you're getting with Russ.
Yeah, because, I mean, there are a lot of reasons for that. Then the list after that, I think that's when Kyler sort of slots in. Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz. So probably between Russ and Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff. But again, he ain't playing for $35 million, even a 10% markup.
Well, that's the problem. Like,
so let's do a 10% markup of Kirk Cousins. So 35, that's 3.5. So that's 38, 39.
Or 10% markup. Sorry.
Yeah. 39 million. Would you do that if you're Kyler's people?
No, you can't do that.
No, you can't.
That's the problem. And then you have Kyler out here making a big stink of it before the draft, which is just nobody gets paid then. Like this contract gets done in this time of year.
Yeah.
So Kyler's behavior, I don't want to call it behavior, but it's like Kyler's attitude towards all this, deleting all the Cardinal stuff from Instagram, this statement that came out, all that, just the way that it was handled before the draft makes all of this the negotiation more difficult. So
I'm trying to think, like the last time a deal was signed, that even the Kirk Cousins deal, which was 3 years, $85 million, all guaranteed, I believe, when it happened. Like, people weren't like, oh, that's outrageous. People were like, all right, maybe a little much for Kirk Cousins. He does some things well. He's controversial in that some people love him, some people don't. I think the Jared Goff and Carson Wentz deals were probably surprising in terms of how much they were for, given where those players. I think Jared Goff had played well up to that point, and then things sort of went south. And then Carson Wentz, he had been injured, obviously, and he got paid. Hey, Debo, where were you on the Carson Wentz new deal? Were you okay with that? Because you were still Carson Wentz fan?
I mean, I still am a Carson Wentz fan, but at the time, like, I think a lot of people thought it was brilliant because they were ahead of the game. They were ahead of the game, and they beat Dak and they beat all these other offers. So it was expensive at the time, but it made a ton of sense. And then his brain broke and he couldn't play football anymore.
Yeah.
Whoa.
All right. We'll see with
what broke his brain?
Who knows? Not this. Don't say the statue. I'll fire you quicker
than Carson Wentz.
Oh, the Nick Foles.
Brinson thinks he walked by it for 2.5 straight years, and then just suddenly in 2020, it just clicked that, oh, that's Nick Foles, and then it broke Carson Wentz.
It just drove him insane. Like, I think it's a good theory. He wasn't rooting. He was rooting for the Eagles. He knew deep inside of, at his core, that he was watching that Super Bowl, and while he was putting on an outward, I'm rooting for the Eagles, he was like secretly thinking, I'm okay if they lose with Nick Foles, because then I don't have to live with this ring I didn't really earn for the rest of my life.
I don't buy that. I don't totally buy the Jalen Hurts draft pick pushed him away, but that is much more believable than
all of it combined.
Brinson leans into drama. Like he wouldn't just say, Carson's just trying to tough it out, be a good teammate. No.
Yesterday, Prisco said Carson Wentz is an enormous upgrade over Taylor Heineke, and Brinson just rolled along with it. Like he hasn't been saying Heineke's better than Wentz all off season.